This private equity conversation is not going away, especially with their new Big 12 evaluations out. First year head coach Steve Lutz got his first postseason W as a Cowboy without Chi Avery on hand. And the Cowgirls got a little bit screwed, but it just means they have more to prove with hopefully a massive transfer on hand soon.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Oldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Monarch Money. You need to get in on the action with taking care of your finances right now with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first entire year. Get your money squared away today with Monarch Money. We have to have a conversation about some of the monetary gains possible in the Big 12, according to the evaluations put out by private equity. But before we do that, we have to talk about the Cowgirls getting a 7 seed, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about the fact that Kansas State has a 5 seed and the Cowgirls beat the Lady Wildcats by 30 points. We beat TCU. We beat Baylor. So there is a little bit of animosity building here, not even to mention the fact that we have to go to UConn to get this thing done. UConn is one of the most historic programs in all of women's college basketball. And as it sits right now, the betting numbers have the favorite to win the national title, South Carolina. Number 2 is the Lady UConn Huskies. So this would be a massive ordeal for J.C. Hoyt and the Cowgirls to get this thing done. Before we take on UConn, we have to take down South Dakota State Lady Jackrabbits, who haven't lost a basketball game in almost 2 months now. So it's not going to be an easy road to even get to UConn. But if you do get to UConn, when all of the seedings are put into play here, the fact that we got a 7 seed there doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, we've proven time and time again, the Cowgirls have the ability to beat anybody. If you can beat a 2 seed TCU, you can beat a 5 seed Kansas State, 3 seed, 4 seed Baylor, whatever the case is, the Cowgirls can get it done. The only difficulty that we've had this entire year is stringing performances back to back to back that are insanely impressive. We can beat anybody, but we have a tendency to beat one of the best teams in America, then turn around and lose to Houston. Beat another top 15 team, then turn around and lose to KU. That has been kind of the story. So if the Cowgirls can avoid some of that and string these games together, I have no doubt that we have the ability and talent to take down UConn, which would be a story that writes itself. It would also be a story that helps J.C. Hoyt in the next contract, whenever that comes, because she is being tabbed as one of the top job candidates out there for the Mizzou Lady Tigers opening. But nonetheless, she has some affinity for Oklahoma State. She has some ties growing up in the regional general area and some of the relationships she was able to build with the previous Cowboy staff. Her mom is a legend in the state of Kansas when it comes to high school basketball. So I do feel like not only regionally, but just some of the things dating back to her time in high school and UMKC, she should be a Cowgirl for some time to come. Now, if you take down UConn, that could massively shift this conversation. But nonetheless, I think she's comfortable here. I think she's happy with the team that she's bringing back, not to mention the fact that you have Lena Girardi coming in and potentially another massive name. This has all the storylines for the Cowgirls making a run. Now, we did mention UConn being projected as the number 2 overall favorite to win the Natty. The Cowgirls are 16th. So out of the entire field, there is some respect for the Cowgirls and their ability to knock down some of the top teams. It's stringing together these impressive performances that have been the only limitation for the Cowgirls this year. So if Tenen Magassa can kind of stay out of foul trouble, if Anna Gredasi continue to be the leader that she's been throughout her time as a Cowgirl, if Micah Gray gets hot and Staley Hurd continues to be the X factor we know she can be, not to mention Macy Hewitt can get absolutely scorching hot from the outside. If these things line up, the Cowgirls can make this huge run. And we did mention Lena Girardi, one of the top recruits in the country. She's number 63 overall, but that is after missing most of her junior season. The projections before she got injured her junior year would have had her in the top 25 in the country easily. So we get to reap the benefits of the relationship that she was able to build with JC Hoyt. You see some of the transfers that we've brought in, clearly predicated upon that relationship. Not to mention the overseas connections. JC Hoyt's bringing in a couple people overseas every year. With Rodriguez coming from Spain last year, it is no different. But now we have the opportunity to bring in yet another individual out of the transfer portal that would be huge for the Cowgirls to land. And that is Amari Whiting, who's averaging over 10.3 points a game this previous year with the BYU Cougars. She's one of the tops on the teams in rebounding and assists as well. She's been Big 12 Freshman of the Week. She's flirted with triple doubles multiple times. She's started all 63 games during her Provo, Utah career. She's scored a career high 24 points with 10 of a shooting against KU with 7 rebounds and 5 assists. She's grabbed 12 rebounds a couple times in her career already. She was named the Cancun Challenge Mayan Division All-Tournament team. She's already got a couple career double-doubles while being a BYU Lady Coug. Before she was a Lady Cougar, she was one of the most sought-after individuals in all of the country. She was the Idaho Gatorade Player of the Year, the 4A Idaho Gatorade Player of the Year, the G7 Conference Player of the Year, the Times News Player of the Year. She was a state champion in the state of Idaho. She was a GB10 all-conference first-team selection. She's won Player of the Week, Player of the Year, high school Athlete of the Week. I know words are hard for me, while also maintaining a 4.0 GPA. This is an individual that would be absolutely crucial to the success of the future of Oklahoma State. And we mentioned the overseas connections. She grew up in Italy for almost a decade while her dad, Trent, played professional basketball. So you know that the training is there. The understanding of the game is there. The ability to play at multiple levels is there. Averaging double digits in the Big 12, it's already there. So if she were able to come in, this would be a kind of an extension, in my opinion, of Energized. And we know how instrumental she has been to JC Hoyt having the early success that she's had as a Cowgirls head coach. Last year, you can kind of throw it in the trash, especially if we make a decent run here this season. Her ability to have connections and form bonds with players is crucial to the future success of the Cowgirls, as is bringing in Amari Whiting. Clearly, with Lena Girardi being the only target thus far in the upcoming recruiting class, this seems to be, I don't know, the sniper version of what we're looking for. Micah Gray should be back, obviously. You're going to have Macy Heward back. You're going to have Staley Hurd back. Praise Egarevba has been climbing steadily this season. The difference between Praise last season and this season is pretty drastic. Now, you do lose Tannen Magassa, and having somebody that can affect the offensive capabilities of the other team and change the way they're designing their plays when they come down the lane, having another one of those could be massive. But again, Rodriguez, she's a freshman this previous season. She played for Spain. They earned a silver or bronze medal at one of the most recent games. So this makes the most amount of sense for Miss Amari Whiting to end up a Cowgirl, to kind of slide in and take the place of Energized, who is a All Big 12 member, who would have been a first-team All Big 12 member if she'd have been more selfish. How dare she do what's best for the team? If we need assists, she's doing it. If we need rebounds, she can do it. If we need 15-footers, she could do it. If we need somebody launching deep, Energized kind of fulfills all of those roles while being selfless in the process. I think Amari Whiting would fit in very, very well at Oklahoma State, and she'd kind of be able to fill in that void to keep us at the forefront of the Big 12 conversation. If JC Hoyt continues to be the Cowgirls head coach and she's able to recruit at this level, not to mention the transfer class that she's able to bring in, guys, this year was pretty much a new roster. Last year was all about injuries. At one point in time, we got down to like 7 scholarship players available, and there was still a gritty ball club. So regardless of what some people have to say, this JC Hoyt at Oklahoma State for a long time fits like a glove. Now, do we want to have a Mike Boynton, a Travis Ford style contract extension? Well, maybe not, but she needs to be locked down as a Cowgirl for a long, long, long time because her abilities are already kind of speaking volumes. And this run here in March Madness could change the trajectory of Cowgirl basketball from a national perspective very, very quickly in very, very many people's eyes nationally. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about the fun stuff. The fun stuff is watching your funds be protected a little bit better. And you're going to be able to do that all day, every day with Monarch Money. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did my cash dollars go between dining out, shopping online, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track of it. So this is where Monarch Money comes in. It's going to be your personal CFO, giving you full visibility to take control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just simply a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center, all in one, just for you. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So stop just simply managing your money and now start building wealth. When you use Monarch Money, you realize just how much you are spending on food deliveries and unnecessary things to that nature. It's going to be the best convenience. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Making money and managing money can be much easier if you have Monarch at your disposal. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use a code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first entire year. That is monarchmoney.com. Use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for half off your first year. Not month, not week, but the whole year. And you know what? While you're doing that, you also might want to check out your daily life being a little bit better with Fabric by Gerber Life, because life does move quickly, especially whenever you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps. The next thing you know, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your entire family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for life term insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes. And in many cases, there's no health exam even required. It'll give you the peace of mind as a parent to ensure that your family is financially protected no matter what happens. Fabric gives you that peace of mind. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day, so protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Fabric also offers free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your child's future success. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege, all one word. That is meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Do you have Fabric by Gerber Life? If you do not, that is the question that you should pose to yourself. Do not get caught up in the unnecessary portions of life. It is important for you to get squared away today with Fabric by Gerber Life to protect you and your family's futures. Now we get to talk about the monetary situation in the Big 12, and I do think that there was a couple surprises thrown in here. The biggest surprise might be the fact that Houston is not even on the list, right? That should be a little concerning if you're a Houston fan. But if you're an Oklahoma State fan, we're doing okay. Houston is at the very, very bottom of the financial rankings that some of these private equity firms have kind of put together. And they look at a multitude of things like attendance, ticket prices, what the viewership could potentially be, what the alumni base could add. I thought was an interesting one. And rounding up the backside outside of Houston is UCF, who checked in at number 70 in the country when it comes to revenue and potentials that are being designated by the private equity firms. Right above them, Cincinnati, 69th in the country. Arizona State, 68th in the country. BYU, 64th in the country. West Virginia, 60th. Kansas State, 57. Utah, 56, which is actually kind of funny, right? Utah presents themselves as the best thing since sliced bread, the best thing that has ever happened to the Big 12. They're so much better in the Big 12. They're above the Big 12. They don't want to be in this conference. It's a truck stop conference. Now, I know this isn't everybody. There are plenty of Utah fans that love being in the Big 12. They're excited to be here. But by and large, most Utah fans continuously talk down to the Big 12. I saw some tweets recently of Utah fans saying, I'm rooting for anybody playing a Big 12 school. Like, what are they doing? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And you have a terrible year in football. You're pretty horrendous in basketball. You're absolutely atrocious in baseball. I don't even know if they have a softball team or not. Yet they're the ones that are continually talking about how they're so good and they're just waiting on the call from the Big Ten. You ain't getting into the Big Ten or anywhere with a 56 evaluation. So let's calm the tatas a little bit, Ute Nation. Right above Utah, number 55 in the country is Colorado, which is kind of surprising as well, because I think we in the Big 12 and even nationally to some degree, we anticipate the Deion Sanders bump. We anticipate the Travis Hunter winning a Heisman in the Big 12 at Colorado. You expect to see some of those bumps, but apparently the private equity firms don't entirely or agree, because they have Colorado 55th in the country here. Somewhat surprising, right above them is Iowa State, ranked number 48 in the country, followed by our Oklahoma State University Cowboys and Cowgirls at 46. And the projection was a little over $500,000 in revenue potential for Oklahoma State per year. Above them at 44th in the country was Baylor. And this is kind of interesting, right? Because Baylor doesn't have to publicly put out the numbers because they're a private university. But the equity firms obviously have to do all the digging. So you might get more out of the Baylor and TCU numbers from this private equity analysis than you would get from the numbers that they put out themselves. So congratulations, Baylor, being just above Oklahoma State in the top 5. Then you have Arizona at 41, TCU at 39th in the country, KU at 37th in the country, and then Taco Recum Tech. Their boon-picking style of dollar bills are starting to flow freely, and the private equity firms are taking that into account, with Texas Tech as number 1 by a somewhat comfortable margin. The median value for the Big 12 needs to continue to uptick, which is why I implore you to watch the episode that we just did with Nathan Bomber Brown. This is kind of his territory, him and his Big 12 Mafia individuals. They break down some of the stats, and they pay attention to a lot of things that are happening on the West Coast. So he helps break some of this down even a little bit better. But this private equity conversation, ironically, was put forth by Brett Yormark. He was the first visionary to kind of put this out there. And other conferences were talking crap about, oh, look at the Big 12. They're cute. They need private equity money. Or the naming rights. Oh, look at the Big 12. They're cute. They're going to have to name their conference the Dr. Pepper Club. Now the Big 10 and the SEC are doing the same thing. So thank you, Brett Yormark, for being the dude that has been able to guide the Big 12 to, I don't want to say unprecedented heights, but in the position that we were in under Bob Bowlesby, and at one point in time potentially falling apart completely as a conference, and having the Oklahoma States and the Texas Techs of the world joining the Pac-12. We've gone from that to fighting the ACC on who that has the next round of viability in the conferences. I don't think you could make the argument that the ACC is ahead of the Big 12 at the moment, but that could change. This seems to be somewhat cyclical in nature, right? If you were to ask Cincinnati, well, not ask. If Cincinnati were to be in the conference right after losing Luke Fickell, it probably doesn't happen. And Houston, obviously, they don't even make the projection revenue list when it comes to private equity. That's not a good look. The fact that they only reportedly spent $2.1 million on NIL last year, that's an even worse look. So I know they have the Fertitta money, but Mr. Fertitta and his homies need to start dumping more money into Houston, because I do think that with the ACC news, there's more coming, and the Big 12 is obviously going to be a part of that. It could be bad. It could be good. We could be gaining. We could be losing. So it's important where you stack up in the finances. It's also important that the Big 12 stay in the forefront of all of the conversations when it comes to more potential realignment. So having these figures to go off of, it's somewhat comforting, unless you're a UCF or a Houston. I was surprised about UCF, right? They do have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, enrollment numbers in the country. They have a very young alumni base. They're in an area that financially typically has successful alumni. So It's only a matter of time, or at least that's what we think, that UCF will kind of climb up in those projections. Houston has problems, and Maury Lyman is coming. So they got some stuff to fix. But again, tune in for the episode where we have some of the numerical breakdowns and the potential visionary things that Brett Yormark could bring to the table. Speaking of visionary, or potentially the exact opposite of that, we won, but it was without Chichi Avery. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard of Upwork, this is going to be your opportunity. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the very right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, developing, signs, and more. And these are the experts that are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with the top talent across multiple industries, especially in the freelance department, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need an extra hand for a project or for a long-term partnership, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent is important. If you need help with marketing a campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who will help deliver incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple candidates are going to be found just for you. This is cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers that can help scale business effectively and efficiently in multiple categories. Make sure that you visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com, Upwork.com, to connect with the top talent and grow your business today in a time that it is very difficult to find qualified individuals to help boost your company and your profitability. When it comes to profitability, Marcellus, Chichi, Avery might not have any. Now, there hasn't been anything coming out as to why he decided not to play in the first postseason game. And I have seen some disgruntled fans about how they wish we wouldn't have accepted the NIT. I find that absolutely preposterous, that any in the fan base would not be excited about this. Not only is it an opportunity for some guys like Bryce Thompson to have another game, which he did, and he had a massive game in a W against Wichita State, which is a pretty solid W. Now we have to wait on the UNI SMU game. Likely, we're going to have to take our talents down to SMU, which is fine because we travel well and we take over portions of Dallas and Houston quite often. So it would be almost a home game to some degree if we were to take on SMU in Dallas. So I welcome it. I bring it. I'm happy for Steve Lutz and this Cowboy ball club to get into the NIT. I also think it's ridiculous that a team like West Virginia decided not to participate, just like I think it's absolutely insane that Marcellus Chichi Avery didn't participate. Like, what could you possibly gain? He was up for 6th man of the year in the Big 12. He was leading off of the bench when it came to scoring in the Big 12 for quite some time throughout the course of the season. You could make the argument that he's the most dynamic talent that we had on the roster this season. So unless he had an injury, unless he's hurt, which, again, if it was something that simplistic, I would assume that we would have already put that out there. Steve Lutz or somebody in the media would have said, guys, calm down. There's a reason Chi decided not to play. But we haven't heard any of that. So that almost leads us to believe that Chi decided, I'm not playing because I have other aspirations. Hopefully, those aspirations are not to stay at Oklahoma State. I would assume this would be indicative of him wanting to leave and go test the waters and do whatever, which is fine. Because I'll tell you, very seldom do I jump on the he's not loyal and true, we don't want him bandwagon, because that has been forced down our throats as fan base for years and years and years. Anybody that transferred or anybody that wasn't playing or anybody that was pursuing the transfer portal, we were told for years that we didn't want them. They don't deserve to be here. They're not loyal and true. And doing this, I've learned some of those are complete bull honky. We do puff out a lot of white smoke sometimes when it comes to things of this nature. But you're not hearing a lot out of Chichi Avery. you did see a lot of emotions out of Chichi Avery on the court right as the season began. We talked about how he might be the most talented player, but he's also flirting with the technical every game. He's hooting and hollering at the refs, and he's very animated, and he disagrees with referees quite often. So some of that wasn't a good look, and perhaps he's not happy coming off the bench. But if you're coming off the bench and it's pretty evident that you are one of our best scorers, then maybe there was a reason for that, right? So there's a lot of things that could encompass why he didn't play. But at the end of the day, it appears as though this is one of those instances that is kind of rare where he actually did not prove to be loyal and true. And there might be some selfishness mixed in here. Now, I definitely hope I'm wrong, but if he doesn't play the next game, then I think that kind of leads us into the direction of Marcellus Chichi Avery decided to be a chicken shiznit and take his name off the roster and not play, and we still found a way to get a W thanks to Bryce Thompson. I want to see more Abu Usman. I definitely want to see Bryce Thompson continue to have opportunities, and I'm kind of pulling for you and I here because having another game in Galgaraiba for this group of dudes, I think is important, just like it's important for Steve Lutz to get a postseason appearance, regardless. Now, I will say this Fox Crown 3, whatever crap they're doing, I'm really happy that we did not want to be a part of that. People tend to forget that before the NCAA March Madness thing, the NIT was the main ticket. Now, of course, this was way back in the day, but the NIT technically holds more historical value than the NCAA tournament. I'm not sitting here with any disillusionment. Of course, you want to be a part of March Madness, and we didn't make it. That is kind of problematic, but we now are 13-3 at home on Galgaraiba with an NIT postseason W on that court. I think it's beautiful. Steve Lutz's first year in a full rebuild, where I think we screwed the pooch and hired too late, which also kind of screwed the pooch and didn't allow Steve Lutz to get in on the massive portion of the early transfer portal action. So this is a late acquisition with a late talent evaluation with late transfer portal dudes that put together a 13-3 home record and has a signature win against number 9 Iowa State on that floor. I do think Iowa State could make a pretty good run here in the NCAA tournament, just like I think the Cowboys. They have an ability here, and we're playing with house money. We didn't think we were going to make the NIT. We're in it, and we got a W without arguably the best six man in the conference at our disposal. So I love it. Good for Steve Lutz. Good for the Cowboy basketball team. Good for Bryce Thompson to get more playing time on that court when he could have transferred. He could have left out. He did stay home. And more often than not, he proved to be an integral piece in the level of success that we have had this season. I'm not of the Cowboy fan base that was ho-hum about getting the NIT. It's Steve Lutz's first year. Now, okay, two years down the road, if we're still excited about an NIT berth, then that's a problem. But in his first year, in a full rebuild with a new roster that was by and large late additions, and then you have Mekhi Ragland coming in, you have Ben Ahmed coming in, you have Ryan Karate, I think is a huge addition. I'm happy. I think we should be happy as a fan base with the Cowboys. We don't have to be happy with the Chichi Avery situation, but nonetheless, here we are. It's March Madness. The Cowgirls can make a move here. There's some big things happening in Stillwater.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
That's right. It's your team every day. Pay attention to the bracket breakdowns that are being done by the best in the business. Until next one, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy and blessed that you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you are everything that makes this thing move. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars, leave a review. I'm a year older. I appreciate the birthday wishes, but I'm not quite a man. I'm not 40 yet, but I'm getting there, and I feel it.